is going on, Rebel fans, and welcome back to another Running with the Rebel show. I'm your host, Rafael Gonzalez, and this is going to be the day after report. What a game. What a game. A lot closer than I wanted the game to be honest with you. We dominated that first half. We looked fantastic. We're up 23-3 going into the break, and you think it's going to be a blowout just like when they played Utah, and then things changed. We're going to go over some things. We'll talk about the first half a little bit, then we'll talk about the second half. I'll go over some stats, and then I'll give you just my personal opinion on what we need to do going into these future games to better ourselves, to hold on to these games, honestly. And it's pretty much it. But we'll first get into the first half. And what a first half. You couldn't probably ask for a better first half than what we produced out in the field. We were hitting on all cylinders on offense. The defense was actually playing good, putting a lot of pressure on Nico early in the game, making him make difficult throws while under pressure. It led to him having barely any yardage in the first half. I think like the majority of his 255 pass yards he got in the second half. I think he got like 220 pass yards or something like that in the second half. He only got like 32 pass yards in the first half. The defense did a fantastic job in the first half. They looked completely different, getting tons of pressure, not like a ton, but enough to get 2 sacks, 5 tackles for loss in the game. There was a fourth down. They went for it, I believe, when we were up 10-0, and we stuffed them in the backfield. They faked to the running back, and Nico tried to take off for the ball. We stuffed them in the backfield. They looked fantastic in the first half defensively, and like I said, we were hitting on all cylinders offensively. Calandria again had a fantastic game. He did have that wild pass that where his knee was down on the sack in the second half, and we'll go over that when we talk about the second half a little bit. But overall, he went 15-21. He had 203 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and the 3 touchdowns were to 2 tight ends and Troy Omiri. And so I like that we switched it up from Bradley because they were double teaming Bradley a lot this game. It looked like they were sticking a corner on him on man to man. And then they were also playing like a safety over the top of him most of the night. And it seemed like UCLA's goal was to not get beat by Bradley deep. And they did a fantastic job with that. Bradley only had 1 reception on the game for 6 yards. And he's still I believe the nation's leading yardage for wide receiver. And so they did a really good job of trying to take him away. And we finally got some other people and some other pieces involved to make up for that. Varkey's Gums had a big reception in the second half for a touchdown. Nick Elksinis, I'm bad with names, guys. Don't judge me. But yeah, Nick Elksinis had one in the first half that kind of got our momentum flowing and going. And so did Troy in the first half too. So a good job of spreading it around. Not a ton of receptions everywhere. Only 3 for Varkey's, 2 for Troy, 2 for Nick. And then D'Angelo Irvin also had 3, and Kevon Lee out of the backfield had 2. So, somebody still needs to step up in the wide receiver room and create that separation so we can have a true number 2 guy that Anthony that Calandria can look for and hit in times of need when Jaden Bradley's getting covered like he was tonight. But we did a good enough job. Like I said, probably couldn't have played a better half than we did in the first half. The only thing that I say that was probably bad that we did in the first half was the extra point bobble that went flying over the head. Thankfully, one of us landed on it instead of them recovering and take it to the house, because that's one of those instances where it goes over the head like that, or if the kicker or the placeholder kind of get knocked over in a scrum, the defense, the defending special teams unit can scoop that up, take it all the way back. So good job of jumping on that ball, even though it was a bad snap. And we played fantastic in the first half. Like I said, up 23-3, dominating the game, and then the second half started. I'm not going to put too much on the offense on the third quarter because UCLA had 2 really long drives. One was like a 8-minute drive, and the other one was like a 6 or something like 5, something like that. And they basically ate the whole clock in the third. It might have been a little bit shorter than the 8 and 5 or whatever the case may be, because that's pretty much the whole half. But we had 1 possession. We had a 3 and out. I didn't like the play calling on the 3 and out either. We had 2nd and short. It was 2nd and 2, I believe it was, in the start of the third quarter there after they came down and scored the touchdown. We took a deep shot. Don't mind that at all. I have no problem with taking the deep shot on 2nd and short to see if we can maybe get a huge chunk play, get that momentum back that UCLA had going into that second half after they came down and scored. But then third down came, and then we did the same thing again. And I don't know if that was like Calandria just taking a shot and instead of taking the short dink and duck that we wanted to, maybe saying, "Oh, I think he's open," and he took a shot downfield again or whatever, or if that was design play call to go downfield again on third and short. But I think it was a bad call because we go 3 and out. They have momentum because they just scored. We give them the ball back. They do another decently long drive, like I said, and they score again. And all of a sudden, it's a 30-17 game or whatever the case it was. And we're looking for answers all of a sudden. Thankfully, when the start of the fourth quarter came, we kind of got our things together there. Varkey's Gums scores down the middle again, and it seemed that tight end post route or that tight end go route down the middle of the field seemed to be working. It seemed to be open most of the times. I love us getting our tight ends involved more, and so I think that's really good for us moving forward to have other options besides, like I said, Bradley just being the sole, champion, the sole carrier of the receiving room. And if we can get our tight ends involved a lot, that'll help us out on a lot of third and short situations too, where we can send them out. They're big bodies. They have good hands. Varkey's wow. Varkey's Gums. my mind's in the gutter. No. But Varkey's Gums on that fourth down in the first half had a huge catch in my opinion. There was a fourth down. We were up 10-0. We get some yardage. It's 4th and 4. And the throw was high and outside to Varkey's, and he makes a fantastic catch with his hands up top. Calandria had to put it in the spot that he had to because there was a linebacker kind of shifting in front of him. And so I thought we have some really good tight ends, I think, in my opinion, hands-wise. And they're athletic. We need to use them more often. Other than that, the defense looked really, really good in the first half, in my opinion. Like I was saying earlier, I know I say like I'm saying a lot. Maybe I should chill out on that. But really good in the first half defensively, right? And come second half, it just seemed like either we were gassed, and this is possible because we were on the field a lot in that third quarter, right? But we didn't seem to be able to get the pressure that we needed to, that we did in the first half. The pressure seemed to have fall off in that second half. It allowed Nico a little bit more time in the pocket to kind of do his thing. They kept hitting those cross routes across the field that seemed to be open all the time. And even on that last play where we got an interception with Amaris Brown, Marcel McDuffie gets the tip. It goes up in the air. Amaris Brown, talk that shit, baby. Like I said, you're going to talk that shit. You just got to back it up on the field. You know what I'm saying? And but even on that route, if Marcel McDuffie doesn't get that tip on that pass, number 7 for UCLA, what's his name here? Let me look it up real quick. Mikey Matthews was coming across the field on those crossing patterns again. He was gonna make that catch. He seemed to be open when I was watching it back last night when I got home, and he seemed to be open. So if Marcel McDuffie doesn't have the attentiveness and the awareness there to get his hand on that ball, we're probably looking at 1st and goal inside the 10 for UCLA in that point in time in the game. So, but other than that, like I said, the defense needs to do a better job of continuing the pressure and continuing their game plans that they did in the first half, because it seemed like the same thing in the Sam Houston State game where we played a fantastic first half and then we kind of got complacent. And it wasn't just the defense in the Sam Houston game, it was the offense a little bit too. We kind of get complacent, and we need to learn how to finish games. A game is a full 4-quarter game, 60 minutes, not 48 minutes. But and you need to finish games. You need to be able to play throughout the entire game, because if we could have put a really good showing here together, I think things would have gone a lot better for us from the national perspective. Listen, a win's a win. Don't get me wrong, we're 3-0. But if we come out and we do the same thing to UCLA that Utah did, I think we're getting a lot more votes in the top 25, which we are getting votes in both polls. Again, I believe it was like 5 and 3, 5 in the AP poll, 3 in the coaches poll. And if you don't remember me talking about in the last video that we had received quite a bit of votes in the preseason, and then they kind of dropped off on one and only got like 3 in the AP poll. We're now back getting votes in both polls. But if we come out and we have a solid showing and we win 40-17 or something like that, I think people are talking about us. I don't think we're ranked, but I think we're getting 20, 30, 40 votes, whatever, just like some of these other teams like Tulane and things like that. and Louisville that I've seen that were up there. But and then you have South Florida too, who's now ranked 18th in the nation. They've beaten a couple ranked teams, and they have Miami too. If they come out and they beat Miami, it's going to be tough for us, even if we run the table. I think as long as they don't hiccup in the American Athletic Conference, it's going to be tough for us to get that CFP spot if that's what we're shooting for. Listen, I just want a Mountain West championship, though. I'll take a Mountain West championship. I'll take a win against Boise. Those are the things that I think we should be looking forward to this year. And then the icing on top of the cake is if we do go undefeated, maybe we do get a CFP playoff spot, right? Long season ahead of us. We have quite a bit of breaks coming up, too, for us, and I'll talk about that here coming up shortly, but definitely have to finish out games. Consistency is key. Consistency is key, and we need to be more consistent. I thought we did a really good job of protecting the ball for the most part. Really scary in the second half there. It's a 30-20 game, and we have the ball, and Calandria starts to roll out of the pocket, and instead of just taking the sack because he's getting pressured, he makes this weird underhanded throw, and that's something that we saw in Virginia for him that I was talking about, that he cannot do. Just take the sack in that instance, which it did end up being a sack in the long run, right? So, but he shouldn't even have thrown that ball in the first place. Thank the Lord and thank the football gods that his knee was down in that instance, because if UCLA gets that ball because essentially he underhanded it. If you didn't see the game, it went right into a UCLA defender's chest. He was able to maintain possession of it, and he just waltzed into the end zone for like a 7-yard interception return. But thankfully, his knee was down. And if that happens, we're looking at a complete and utter momentum shift that I think we lose the game. I think if that happens, they come down. They can be a lot more conservative in their play calls and don't have to go deep over the middle like they were doing towards the end of that game, because they only had like a couple minutes and they were doing like a 2-minute drill towards the end of the game. I think they can be a little bit more conservative, dink and dunk. And those dink and dunks were getting us throughout the entire game. That was one of the passes that Nico was able to complete almost the entire game. Those little, running back out, tight end out, right to the out, little 3-yard out, 4-yard out, whatever the case may be. It was there all night for them. The check downs, maybe a couple times if you want to call them too. It was there all night for them, and so they could have done that and then easily put another touchdown on the board at the end of the game instead of playing that more aggressive style, because they would have only needed a field goal to tie the game and a touchdown to win it. And so it's something that Calandria has to keep in mind, right? Because he can't bring those bad habits back. He needs to understand that in that instance, with us up 10, right, you can't do anything that's going to put us in a spot that's going to give momentum back to the other team. In that instance, and listen, momentum did go back to them because they ended up getting a sack anyways, but the sack is much better than giving them an instant touchdown, right? You want to make them work for that touchdown late in the game there, kill some clock. But so thankfully his knee was down. Speaking about Rebel games coming up here, we have quite a bit of breaks. From my understanding, we have 2 bye weeks in the next 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. And so we have a bye week coming up here for this next week in September. So the September 13th week coming up here on Saturday game, September 13th, we have a bye week. And then we're going to be going to the Miami of Ohio. And that's going to be on the 20th. And that's going to be on the 20th. Time is still to be determined from my understanding too, so that's kind of weird. I don't know how they haven't announced a time for that game yet, but so we get a bye week the 13th. We play on the 20th at a time to be determined later on, and then we get another bye week for the 27th. So it's kind of weird. We're going to have a lot of downtime. It's good because there was a couple guys banged up in this game. I saw Alex Orgy on crutches after he had his one little, I think he only had one run in the game. Yeah, one run for 1 yard. And I think he kind of got banged up by a lineman on his knee. He kind of went like a couple different directions on his knee there. And it seemed to affect him because he was on crutches towards the end of the game. He was in a brace initially, and it looked like he was able to walk on his own power to the locker room at halftime. But when I seen him in the second half, he was on crutches, and I believe he had his shoulder pads off in the second half. And so that's concerning. So hopefully it's nothing too serious with Alex Orgy, and he can get back in there because I do like him in those short yardage situations. There was a couple times in the second half where we had those third and shorts where we could have used him to help get us those first downs, whether it be faking it to the running back and taking it himself, or just using himself as a decoy while we're handing off to the running back and maybe use himself as a decoy. So hopefully we get him back sooner rather than later. And I know there's a couple other guys that were banged up. I think Welch was kind of banged up there towards the second half. I know Jake Pope went down for a little bit in the first half, but he seemed to be fine. But those little dinks, those little minor injuries, right? We have time to heal. But I also don't want the momentum to be taken away from us here. These next two games are going to be tough as well. And then after the second bye week on the 27th there, we go to Wyoming. So we have a couple tough road games. Miami of Ohio hasn't looked the greatest in the couple games they've played, but speaking of that, I believe they played two power conference teams, and they did. They played Wisconsin week 1 and held to Wisconsin to 17 points, but Wisconsin historically has never been known to be really a great offense. And then they went to Rutgers, where they kind of got stomped out 47-17 on the road at Rutgers. And so they have a bye week they have a bye week as well, I should say, before we come knocking on their door at their home place. And so I think the first non-Power 4 opponent, right? Their home opener. This can be a very scary game for us going on the road here. And so I think they're going to want to prove something, because both the games they've had currently so far haven't been the greatest for them. And so it is concerning that we have the bye week going into this game, and then we have another bye week going into a Wyoming game that's going to be tough. If you look at the Mountain West Conference standings, us and Wyoming and Air Force are the only ones that are undefeated right now. Air Force has only played one game as of right now, which is they didn't play this week. That's interesting to me. That's interesting to me. It looks like they had a bye week this week already early in the season, and they're going to be playing Utah State next week. So Air Force 1-0, Wyoming 2-0, and then us at 3-0. And so everybody else has kind of taken a loss already. And so that first conference game, if Wyoming can go on and to win their matchups here in the next coming weeks, could be a very interesting matchup, honestly. They have Utah coming up at home, and I think that's going to help them being at home. If the Utah offense doesn't show up, and Wyoming can put a little bit of points on the board, maybe possibly get the upset, who knows, right? And then they go to Colorado. I'm not saying Wyoming's going to go undefeated going into our game, but if that does happen, it makes it for a very interesting matchup in Wyoming. And so we'll see how it goes. I don't necessarily know how good Wyoming is. They played Northern Iowa this last week. They had Akron in the first week, and the Akron game wasn't really great for them. It was 10-0, but they seem to have a good defense. They seem to have a really good defense, and that could be our Achilles heel, because what carries us right now is our offense. UCLA, again, got like 428 yards of total offense, and that's just not going to cut it if we want to win games here in the future. The defense needs to somehow cut down on the total yards that we're giving up. The Sam Houston State game was much better. If it wasn't for those two big plays on 4th and 1, we hold them to under 300 yards of total offense, and that's what we kind of need to do, or even the low 300s. But we can't be giving up 400 plus, 500 plus yards every single game. It's just not going to work for us in the future if our offense sputters at all for any reason in one of these games. And Wyoming is a good one. Miami of Ohio has a really good player, and I believe his name is Adam Trick, who is a end. He is a linebacker. He's an outside edge linebacker. That man's a beast. That white boy can play. Let me tell you right now, and he's going to be a problem for us in that Miami of Ohio game. Whether or not our offense sputters in the future, our defense needs to be able to cut down on the yardage given up for us to have chances in games instead of us always being in a shootout. 30-23 right here. We scored 38 points last week. Defense did a good job of holding the yardage down, but first week 38-31, right? We can't keep winning and shoot us like this. I don't believe. So because our offense is going to have a bad game one of these days. Like, I don't think you can connect on all cylinders all the time. Somebody might scheme well against us. You might go against a good coach that schemes against us. The defense is going to have to pick up the yardage situation and kind of come up with schemes to slow teams down. But like I said in past videos, there's my like I said again, right? But I don't know if the defense can do that. I think they might have to be a bend but don't break type defense. I've stated that in the past. It seems like that's probably going to be the case, and we're gonna and if that's the case, and if that is the instance, we're gonna have to be very opportunistic defensively when it comes to turnovers. And it seems like we're there. It does seem like we do get the interceptions, and we try to create that chaos with those turnovers to help us out offensively. And so we'll see. We'll see. I don't know if I'll do a video this week. We're on a bye week, but if anything interesting comes up on X or anything like that, I'll probably do a short little video just to go about it. And I've been thinking about changing the name of the Running with the Rebels show to the Running with the Rebels podcast. And if that's the case, I will change the title as well. Probably won't do it for this show here since we're already recording the video or whatever. But in the future, I think I might call it the Running with the Rebels podcast moving forward with your host, Rafael Gonzalez. But other than that, guys, it seemed like we had a good attendance. Wasn't the greatest attendance, but it was good. We just got to keep going. We keep winning. More people will show up. I think it was like 36 and change that showed up to the game. I was hoping for 40K. Didn't quite get there, but the energy was good in the fourth quarter. The beginning of the game, not so much. My voice is a little gone right now, so apologies. But I tend to be me and my boy Jordan over there, and a couple other people in the section that we have tend to be the only ones kind of like trying to rile people up, get people in the game. But we need more of it. We if you're there, be loud, right? That's why you come to the game, is to give our team an advantage, right? No need to be sitting down on third downs, third and whatever. I don't care if it's 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 35. We should be getting up, making some noise, making it difficult for the defense to operate their offense and help our team in any way that we can. But we'll probably throw a random video up. I don't know what we'll talk about midweek since we're on a bye week. And then we'll get it back going next week with the preview for the Miami of Ohio video. As always, I hope everyone has a great week. Take care of yourself. And UNLV, go, fight, win. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.